Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to be answering some questions. I just wanted to have a fun, easy, chatty video because this week's going to be a bit full on for me, and I still wanted to get a video out for you guys. I've rounded out some of your questions that you've asked in the YouTube comments, thank you for them, and then also ones that I got on my Instagram story. Most of them are going to be about my books and my writing, however, there are a couple like industry stuff, so I will slot them at the beginning, so if you only want to hear about that, there you go. But if you've never seen my face before, my name is Billwood. I'm the author of Let's Split Up and the upcoming Be Right Back, which is releasing in like 2 months. Little scary. Oh my gosh, it's less than 2 months. That's really scary. I'm going to the printers to go and sign like 2,000 copies on Thursday. Good luck for my wrist, but it is Scooby-Doo meets Scream. It's really fun, if I do say so myself, and if that sounds at all interesting, the first book, Let's Split Up, is finally releasing in the US this September in 2 weeks, which is very scary, and if you pre-order, you get a really cool sprayed edge. Okay, let's get into it, and the first question I wanted to address was blurbs. I haven't got the exact comment, but I know the gist of what this comment was asking, and it was just saying, how do blurbs work in the industry in traditional publishing? And the blurbs that this person was talking about was the blurb on the back of the book, not like an author quote, but if you look at the back of the book and it gives you like a little premise what the book is about, who writes them, and it's going to change. I wrote the initial blurb obviously when I was going to query it and all of that, but then things changed and my publisher actually rewrote it completely. My editor then sent it to me and said, this is the blurb, and then we kind of did a little edit together. I had a couple things that I wanted to change. I think I remember really specifically something being like really like spoilery, and that happened in the sequel blurb as well, so we changed up that as well. But publishers will, I found at least, take the lead on it because they want to make sure, like, they know what works for a book, don't they? They know not what works for the market, what people need to see, but everyone's human, they always get something right. And yeah, as I said, my sequel, when that went up on Amazon for the first time, I was like, guys, you are like spoiling something. This is like, this happens after halfway in the book, like this is a no-no. So that was swiftly changed. But yeah, that's why like publishers will normally take the lead on it, because they know what to include and what not to. But it doesn't always like happen that way either, because I've read a book recently where the blurb of the book, it gave like most like the surprise of the plot away, which I thought was really strange. And yeah, so that's my experience, but I'm sure it's different at every publisher. That's just how it is with my publisher, Scholastic. Oh, it was also similar with the US one. I actually didn't have any say in that one because it was just up on the website one day, but I loved the US blurb kind of more than the UK one. The same for the sequel, but also like there's differences between UK and US blurb lengths. In the UK, it's tend to be a little bit shorter. With the US, they go a bit longer. But I don't know. Again, different for everywhere. Which kind of leads on to the other question that I had about the industry, was like, what was my experience with re-editing the book for a US audience? So if you didn't know, my book Let's Split Up came out in the UK last September 26th, and then I didn't get my US deal until a week after that release, so they weren't simultaneous, and the US book is coming out almost exactly a year after the first book. So we had to re-edit the book for a US audience. The book is set in the US, but obviously when I was doing my edits with them, we found things that obviously needed to be changed. So how that process went, it was actually really fast. They got the manuscript, the UK manuscript that was already obviously edited over and over again, and they did basically an Americanization of the language, changed all the American spellings, blah, all like the big like American grammar things, maybe word differences, all that sort of stuff. And then I think like another line edit just to like catch out any like human error bits. And then we had maybe 1 or 2 rounds of just going back and forth with an editor to see like if things translated well enough into like the American English language, if that makes sense. It sounds so silly because they're the same language, but I didn't realize like a lot of like British isms that were British that I didn't even know, like sayings or anything in between. It's just like little things that you don't even think about and like, oh, do we say that differently? Now, I'd done a lot of research, of course. I grew up on the Disney Channel, which is like strangely like very good research, but like little things slip through the cracks. So if you've read the UK and the US, you'll find some little differences. I re-edited this back in I think February now, so it's a bit blurry. But yeah, it was barely anything. It was mainly just grammar stuff, obviously the Americanization, English, blah blah blah. And even some like word choices. I can't remember exactly what they were at the time, but it was just like, would an American person know what this means? Which I found interesting. Obviously, there's kind of different grammar levels. I think comparing UK schools to American schools is very different as well, which again, very interesting, but that's how it went for me. And now we'll get into some more questions just about my books, my writing, because I did answer them on my Instagram story, but I couldn't really go into depth on that. So the first one was, what was the hardest part about writing a sequel? And I think there's so many answers for this, but for me, I think it's kind of the expectation of it. So I wrote my sequel after my book came out in the UK and did a lot better than anyone was expecting. And then I was also writing it as we got the TV deal. So imposter syndrome overload, and I was just really worried that I wouldn't be able to live up to the first book, which is silly, like with hindsight, because I think the book is so much better than the first book. But I think it's still there, that nervousness of having to write something that fans of the first book are gonna like, and like not feel like it feels forced, if that makes sense. So I'd say expectation, but also just like making something that felt warranted. I've said this before, I feel like I said it in my previous video as well, that I didn't want to write a sequel that didn't feel worth it. I think it's more and more nowadays, like sequels are forced out because they want to ride on the wave of like a big franchise or anything. But for me, it really annoys me when a sequel doesn't feel like earned. So when my publisher came to me and asked if I wanted to do a sequel, I was a little apprehensive. I had ideas, nothing set in stone, and I think the format of Let's Split Up lends itself really well to a series. But yeah, it was kind of just getting over my own self-doubt, and finally when I did and I locked in on an idea, I'm really happy with it and I can't wait for people to read it. The next question is the title based on the term "be right back" in horror movies? Of course. All of my titles, well, for this series at least, are like referencing sort of horror media. Obviously, Let's Split Up, you shouldn't really say Let's Split Up, because, or you shouldn't split up at all, because obviously. And then obviously with Be Right Back, you shouldn't say Be Right Back, because it's very rare that you actually are right back. Yeah, there's not much more to say with that one. Yes. The next one is there a surprising twist in Be Right Back, just like there was in Let's Split Up? And yes, and it's one that I'm really nervous. It's probably the most nervous thing about the book that I am for people to read, because it's a little out the box, it's daring, and maybe controversial. We'll see on October 9th when it comes out. But this like leads back to me wanting to make sure the book, like the sequel, feels explosive almost. Like I didn't want to do something that felt really safe. So I've taken some like scary liberties, and it may not pay off. I think it will. I think it will. I don't think it's like shocking enough to drive people away, but I think it's shocking enough to do something different, you know? But that's not just the only shocking point, obviously. I think with these books, with mysteries, you want there to be a shock, but there's definitely one shock that I'm like, okay, I can't wait to see people reacting to this. The next question is more so they were confused when all my books are coming out, and I get it, it's confusing. Okay, I'm just going to round them off and explain why they're so confusing. So, Let's Split Up, the first book, came out in the UK last September 26th. Let's Split Up is now coming out in the US this September 2nd, so in like 2 weeks. The sequel, Be Right Back, is coming out October 9th in the UK, and then it's also coming out in March next year. So if you are in the US, you're not going to have to wait a full year, which is great. I am about to do my US edits for Be Right Back, which is very exciting. I believe actually I'm getting them tomorrow. Okay, so I'll be doing them as you watch this. How fun! And then I've got some foreign editions as well. The German edition, I think, is coming out on the 26th this month. No, in September. See, even I'm getting confused. Yeah, it's coming out exactly a year after the UK edition, which is really cool. Another really cool sprayed edge. My one gripe with like having like mismatched releases, it's just making it confusing, not only for everyone else, but for me too. So I'm hoping we can kind of line back up again eventually. We'll see. Kind of similar is, when is the US cover reveal for Be Right Back? I don't know. I have seen the cover and it is gorgeous. I love it. I think it's so cool, and it obviously fits with Let's Split Up. But I don't know when we're revealing it. I've had it probably for like 4 or 5 months, so I'm hoping it's soon. We'll see. I've got two more. I'm gonna do this one next. Is what was your favorite scene to write in Let's Split Up, or what's your favorite scene in Let's Split Up, and in Be Right Back? Obviously, I can't tell you what scene in Be Right Back, but I've definitely got one. For Let's Split Up, I always go back to there's a scene in a house with a character with like red flashing lights. That scene I love because it's very reminiscent to, I don't want to spoil anything. It's very spooky, scary, and I think if I do say so myself, and you know what, I'm gonna toot my own horn. I think I did a really good job with like not only ambiance but like just like sense of like dread, and it's really fun to write. I think it's super visual, and I think my like screenwriting roots really come out in it. And I'm hoping if like this TV show does go through and everything still goes ahead, I think it would look so cool on screen, and I can't wait to see that. But also for Let's Play Up, obviously the prologue, everyone loves the prologue, and I agree too. It barely ever changed through like all the edits that I've done on that book. I don't think it ever changed. For Be Right Back, I have a scene, but obviously I'm not going to tell you. I love the prologue in Be Right Back as well. I think it's super fun. I knew I wanted to do something. I think because the prologue in Let's Play Up is so explosive, I wanted to do something really explosive again, but not the same thing. So when you read it, you'll understand what I mean. I think it's kooky, and I'm excited to see what people think of it. And the final question, I shouldn't be answering this. Is Be Right Back the end of the series? Is Let's Split Up gonna be a duology? You tell me. Be Right Back, and we'll see. We'll see. So those were some of my frequently asked questions. I hope I answered what you want. If you have any more questions, please let me know in the comments and I'll get back to you. But if there's any other videos you guys want to see from me, if you have any questions about the industry, about my books, anything in between, please let me know and I will make another video, because I always need video ideas, guys. But yes, if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, comment if you want. It really helps with engagement. And I will see you next video next week. I am actually kind of sticking to this every Tuesday video. What is happening with me?